The fans in and around the Commonwealth of Virginia love good old-fashioned Saturday night short track racing. Tonight, it's the IndyCars on the shortest track they will compete on, Richmond International Raceway. 7 races into the 2009 IndyCar season and only 29 points separate the top 4 drivers. For some, this year has been a dream, but for others, it's been nothing but frustrating.
Scott Dixon a winner for the second time this season. Ryan Briscoe will hold off Dario Franchitti for second. Twin checkers in the air. Elio Castroneves has won here at Texas Motor Speedway. And Ryan Briscoe led a ton of laps, but he didn't lead the last one.
Yeah, I just couldn't get it done, so it was pretty frustrating knowing that I was just going to come second after dominating the race.
For his 10th career win, as he heads for the stripe, it's Dario Franchitti winning here at Iowa.
In the pit box, I think I might have been a little conservative coming in and out.
The lights of Richmond mark the final oval in this 6-track stretch. Can Briscoe find the edge needed to place him in victory lane? Or can pole sitter Dario Franchitti post a 3rd victory in 2009, pushing him even closer to a national championship? This is IndyCar racing on Versus. It's a warm night in Richmond, Virginia as we get set for tonight's race, the SunTrust Indy Challenge, which will be the last for a while on an oval. In the last 5 events, all of which have been on ovals, Elio Castroneves has won twice, capturing the Indianapolis 500 and the race at Texas Motor Speedway. His Penske teammate Ryan Briscoe has finished second the last 3 races, and it seems the streak of bad luck is continuing for Tony Kanaan. Welcome to IndyCar Central on Versus, and a very enthusiastic crowd here tonight. Hi everyone, I'm Bob Jenkins, and welcome to Richmond International. Are you guys ready? Imagine, if you can, racing at 3/4 of a mile in less than 16 seconds and turning most of the time. Doing it with 19 other cars around you and doing it for 300 laps. That's the challenge that these drivers face here tonight. Ryan Briscoe is the points leader coming into this event, and he hopes to break his streak of second-place finishes. At Milwaukee, he led 154 of the 250 laps, and he finished in second position. At Texas, he led 160 laps, and he finished second also. Last week at Iowa, he led 85 laps and had the same result. Briscoe could be on his way to setting a new record for laps led in a season. That record is held by Scott Dixon, who at this time last year had led more than 50% of the total laps and went on to set the record at 899. With 10 races to go this year, Ryan has led 509. Lindy Thaxton is with Ryan Briscoe.
And we want to talk to Ryan Briscoe about aggressiveness, because after the last race you said, maybe I should have been a little more aggressive at that last green flag pit stop. And you've been criticized by some people this season for maybe being a little too easy on people. For people who doubt it, are you tough enough out there?
Well, I like to think so. You know, we've been running great, you know, and having some really close racing out there. A bit frustrating, you know, at the last race to lose it in the pit stop, but, you know, we've just got to keep doing what we're doing, you know, and we've got the points lead. I think it's going to be close all year long. Obviously, you know, I think we're going to need to win some more races, you know, but I'm sure if we keep knocking on the door, they're going to come.
Yeah, and speaking of the points lead, here you are, the only driver to finish every lap and every race, but still not capturing that win since St. Pete. Does it motivate you? Does it frustrate you? Or does it do something else?
Maybe a bit of both, you know, but you know, the important thing is that we race at the front, that we're fast, you know, every race, and we need to be consistent because the big picture is the championship. And you know, unfortunately, you can't win every race, although we'd like to. But you know, you got to take what you can when you can't win. And you know, I think, as I said, you know, if we just keep doing what we're doing, you know, those wins are going to start rolling in.
Ryan Briscoe starting 4th. Bob, 5 of the last 7 winners have started from the 4th position.
And his 2-point lead over Franchitti is the result of bonus points. You get 2 points for leading the most laps in a race and 1 for winning the pole. Dario cut the margin by 1 last evening by winning the pole for tonight's race. The top 10 separated by less than 100 markers.
Here comes the number 6 machine of Ryan Briscoe.
Here's our leader. He's been dominating races here recently, but has not gotten the brakes at the end. No changes for Ryan Briscoe. Pretty good stop. He's back out in it.
So Dario, who had picked up the lead, is now on pit lane.
They're going to change all 4 tires. He's back out.
Dario Franchitti takes over the lead on that last round of green flag stops. For the 2nd time in 3 years, Dario Franchitti will drive into victory lane at Iowa Speedway as the Iowa Corn Indy 250 flags wave.
When it comes to short tracks, there's no question Dario Franchitti has found a home. What is it about short track oval racing that suits your style, Franchitti?
I don't know. I really don't. I enjoy it. I enjoy the challenge of setting the car up. The feeling I like from the car seems to work on it, and I get to drive good cars. So this Target car has been great all weekend. It was good in Iowa, good in Milwaukee too, and that makes my job a little bit easier.
Let's talk about the fact that you closed in the point standings by getting the pole position. This is the last oval for quite some time now. How important is in so much as you get the spotlight and all the confetti and the champagne, how important is that support that you get on pit road, both on the wall on the inside and over the wall?
You know, Jack, as you know, this is a team sport, and you cannot win a race without your guys. You just can't. And last week was a classic example of that. Everybody in Team Target, from the guys who do the pit stops, guys back at the shop, even the guys in Minneapolis who give us the funding to do this. A big, really great effort by Team Target, so thank you to all them.
Hey, Bob, he may be the quarterback, but it's a pretty stout line that he's got breaking the middle for him.
And Dario and his crew hoping, of course, to duplicate what they did last Sunday afternoon. I'm on my way to the booth. Robbie Floyd will carry on when we come back to IndyCar Central on Versus. Meanwhile, Dario honors his pit crew.
I want to take this opportunity to thank the guys on the Target team for really helping out last week with the win at Iowa. Their pit stops were flawless. They prepared the car perfectly, and as you can see now, they're still working on a car here at Richmond. So thanks, guys. They are the best in the business, and it's a pleasure to drive the car.
The IndyCar Series oval track season is about to begin on the high banks of Kansas Speedway.
For the first time in 2009, Scott Dixon has won it. Opened the door to the 3-time Winners Club. There's a brand new member, and his name is Elio Castro-Neves. The twin checkers are out. Scott Dixon takes the victory at the Milwaukee Mile.
Guess what? The Spider-Man is back. Elio Castro-Neves wins at Texas.
For the 2nd time in 3 years, Dario Franchitti will drive into victory lane at Iowa Speedway.
And this is going to be it as far as the ovals are concerned for a while, because 5 of the next 6 races are going to be on road and street courses, starting at the Glen, Watkins Glen on 4th of July weekend, and wrapping things up at Sonoma at Infineon Raceway. Road and street courses just down the road. I'm sure there's several guys that are looking forward to that. A couple of guys last week had one heck of a race. One guy we haven't seen in a while, Thomas Scheckter and Mike Conway, haven't seen too much in 2009. But what a race they had in Iowa last week. Scheckter started in 16th place. On the first lap, this was spooky. I guess if you're Scheckter, it's all right. It's a common thing for him. Moves from 16th up 6 places, would eventually finish in 6th place. Great job for the Dreyer and Reinbold team. His teammate, Mike Conway, another mover through the pack, finally gets to show what he can do. We saw what he could do at Indy, get a little taste of it there, but again, at Iowa, how strong was he moving up to 8th place? And it's good to have both of you in the Dreyer and Reinbold team in the top 10, but it's good to have you, Mikey. Welcome to America, and you finally got to race for a change.
I know, yeah. I mean, it's been a tough year. I mean, not one that we'd hoped for. But you know, we're just hanging in there, pushing hard all the time, and I'm improving, the team's improving. And you know, it's great to have Tom as a teammate as well, because he's got a lot of experience and, you know, brings a lot to the team, and it's really helped me move forward as well.
Thomas, so much uncertainty for you at the start of the year. You moved already in 2 different teams. What has it been last week that kind of clicked for you and was able to make all those passes?
Well, I think we've had good results from the beginning, and you know, firstly I have to thank Montevi for putting me in this situation, and you know, the car's getting quicker and quicker, and we're doing a good job here at Dry Reinbold, and we've got to keep it going. You know, the good thing with getting good results is that, you know, it just pushes everybody to another level, and it can't stop until we put this car in victory lane.
Talking to your team, they hope you don't have that false confidence like you had last week, especially when you watch your teammate make those passes like that. Can you do that here? It's an even tighter course.
I don't know. You'll have to stay tuned to see.
Yes, we will. Good luck, guys. Congratulations on last week. We still have much more of this IndyCar series left here on Versus. And another guy that we are looking for, Helio Castroneves, he's already won at this track, and well, he's had an on and off year, but in Indianapolis, he started out very strong, but he also has 2 more races that, you know, maybe not so much. Typically in IndyCar racing, well, in any kind of racing, you don't want to be in the back of the pack. That's where the bumping usually happens, but that's not always the case. If you watched last week in Iowa, even up front, Helio Castroneves, Scott Dixon, they can bump too.
At the line, Helio Castroneves working the middle group, and on the low side, Scott Dixon battles for the lead in 2. They have been side by side for the last couple of laps. We have a new leader in the 9 machine of Scott Dixon, but Helio will slip underneath him going into 1.
There's the view from 3rd place. Dario Franchitti, he's watching all this with the best seat in the house. Oh, back, wheel to wheel now, diving back on the inside. I couldn't believe it. Helio has got damage on his right front wing.
And a piece of debris flew off of one of those cars, and caution comes out onto the courts.
That's part of short track racing.
It is, but when it happens to you, you don't like it, man. That's not right.
Obviously, there was no intention to try do anything. I thought Dixon went a little bit low.
I don't really know what happened there. You know, I was on the high side. I think he just pushed up, and it's really his option to get out of the throttle, so it's kind of frustrating.
I was lifting, actually, but the good news is I don't think that affect destroy our race.
And that's part of what short track racing is all about. Helio Castroneves, you were just introduced to the crowd. This is another short track. How tight does it get?
It's always very tight. I mean, unfortunately, last weekend, Scott and I had a little incident, but we put behind that. And you're going to try. We're just joking around actually back there. We're like, hey, let's take it easy, and hopefully we'll be fine.
Yeah, but you guys say take it easy, and then you get out there, and it's you know what to the wall.
When we put the helmet on, we forget what we say now. But, you know, we know what we're talking about. We mean with nobody trying to do anything silly, and it's just incident, as you said. But we're going to try to do a good show. Obviously, if you something have to do it, hopefully going to be towards the end, and you want to make sure you finish, because this place, when you're going under 17 seconds, man, it's tight. It's very tight.
Good luck, Helio.
Hey, thank you, guys.
Let's check in with Lindy. Lindy Thaxton?
And Scott, you start second, so clearly you're fast, but you told me after qualifying yesterday you thought you could go faster. Do you think you're going to find that speed tonight?
Yeah, I hope so. I think it's definitely a little bit hesitant, but you know, it's nice to see that really the only person I was fighting for the pole there was my teammate Dario. So a great start for Team Target tonight. You know, we have the 2 Penske's behind us. You know, it's starting to get into the thick of the championship now, and we've really got to start trying to determine where we're going to pick up these points. And unfortunately, my teammate seems to be there the whole time. So I think we can have a good night here tonight. We just got to try not to hit each other.
Scott Dixon starting second next to his teammate, Robbie.
But starting in 10th place, Danica Patrick. Yeah, a winner back in Motegi, but that was a year ago. She's looking for her first win of the year in 2009, the IndyCar Series in the Boost machine. She's starting in 10th place, and that's kind of mid-pack for Team AGR. If you look at the entire team, man, they struggled in qualifying. Hideki Muto, the top qualifier, in 8th starting spot. Danica Patrick in 10th. Marco Andretti 16th. And Tony Kanaan 17th. That's definitely what they were not looking for in qualifying. TK, Tony Kanaan, boy, has he had a tough month, a tough 2 months. And we'll hear from him. Jack Arut's going to talk to him a little more when we come back.
no. We have a huge crash. And a second contact. And it looks like it is Tony Kanaan. Into the wall hard.
Tony Kanaan problems are getting him out of the race car as the smoke is billowing from the back end of the car. So Kanaan is getting out. He's done for the day.
You've got a problem in turn number 2. It's Tony Kanaan. Tony Kanaan has made contact.
Every time, I can't get a break.
It's been a difficult year, but, you know, we got to move on.
Well, for Tony Kanaan, technical difficulties, and it kind of goes hand in hand with what has happened to your season so far.
I know. I mean, I have to keep it positive. I think, you know, it is what it is, and unfortunately, we have to keep our heads up. It's hard on the team. It's hard on us to have 3 bad results like that, but after we have a pretty good start of the season, so we got to keep it positive. I think the guys are good. You know, it's the same team that we won the championship in 04. It's the same team that won 13 races, so.
Let's go and share, though, what we missed in that in color piece that you shared with me about as bad as days may get. The fact that you have a son that goes home and really doesn't care what it means to you.
It's different now. I mean, I get home and I can see my kid and I forget about racing. And before I would get home, when I didn't have him, I would debate and dwelling about what should I do to change my car, this and that. Right now, I get back home and I just need to figure out how to learn the slot car quicker and run around with him. So he's a joy of my life. I love him. He's in Brazil right now, and I miss him a lot. So it's a different prospect. Right now I got a race. He keeps saying that Daddy's car is a rocket, and right now we're being rocketed into the wall lately. So I got to make him proud.
Well, Tony, we've got the piece ready to go. Let's take a look, you and I and the rest of the Versus audience. Tony Kanaan in color.
At this point in Tony Kanaan's life, is he in a good place?
Oh yeah, I think so. If I go back years and years ago, the way I started it, and I'm in the best place. I do what I love. I don't accomplish everything I dream as far as victories, but growing up, I wanted to be a race car driver. And I guess that's what I am now.
You were at a young age and you lost your dad, and you still pursued your career.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember the story about locking yourself in the go-kart shop because you were so young and without family. Now you have a son. What has that done to Tony Kanaan?
Racing is my life. Racing being my life affects everything. Now it changes because you have a bad race, but you come back home, that is this joy that it could care less if you won the race and if you didn't or whatever. He's just happy that you're home, and he will look at you and he will hug you and he will just hold your hand and try to take you to the park. So I'm being able to actually switch off.
From the day I met you to now, you strike me as a man that is always in control. Am I right or am I wrong?
I don't know. I think the way I grew up, life was kind of hard on me, and I had many questions, you know, like, God, why did you take my dad away when I was 13? What have I done to you? In a very selfish way again. And I think I became pretty self-control, because to me, after that, nothing that can happen in my life. Well, now I have a son, so I shouldn't say that, but before Leo, it would never match the harm or the pain that I felt that day when I lost him.
Well, do you ever worry about losing Leo?
I would say probably I don't think about that. I think the reverse one, because I've been there. Actually, I worry about him losing me more than actually me losing him.
Complete this sentence with one word. If I had to tell my son in one word how I feel, I would say,
I'm happy.
mercy. Welcome back to Richmond International Raceway, where the Clarion Indy Health and Fitness trailer's been super busy this week. They say this is the toughest stretch in the IndyCar series, with Texas, Iowa, followed now by Richmond. Dr. Rob Schroeder, why is that the case? What is it about this three-race stretch?
There's a variety of different issues, Robbie. One being just the heat and humidity that this stretch of races tends to carry on. The drivers tend to incorporate a lot of muscle issues here. The other issue being that the two short tracks in a row are very physical tracks. Drivers carrying 5Gs into the corners here really beats them up. And then on top of that, having multiple races back and forth week after week with testing sessions in between, drivers just don't have the ability to heal from injuries that they sustained earlier in the year.
I just thought it caused a strain on the reporters, but you know it's got to be tough for those drivers out there, especially in this heat. We caught up with them earlier, and this is what they had to say.
But when you come to a short track like Iowa and Richmond, back to back, you had the mental plus the physical, because the amount of G4 that you would put in, it's about 4.5 to 5 Gs. And that's a lot of Gs.
My right knee hurt quite a bit. It was like all the skin got kind of worn off from being on the top of the car. Your elbows always hurt a little bit from banging around. You know, I had to go in the race shop actually after the Iowa race and make some adjustments to my race seat because I was getting a dead arm towards the end of the race just from the lateral Gs.
It's a tough month for us with 4 races in a row, but you know, it's the way it is.
I've been pretty good, so I think that I felt better coming from Iowa than pretty much any other race this year. So, you know, I take fitness really seriously.
But it is what it is. You got to keep going. That's why we are working out to be fit.
And as you can see, we have a great crowd on hand here tonight. Richmond International Raceway is a very unusually shaped racetrack. It is a D-shaped oval in which the turns are banked at about 14 degrees. We have about an 8-degree banking here on the stretch in front of us, which really isn't a straightaway. The back stretch is backed at about 8 degrees. There you can see 3/4 of a mile in length. We will go 300 laps tonight, or 225 miles, 14 degrees of banking in the turns. Professor Bekas is with us to explain a little more how physically challenging this track is.
Many of the drivers, including race winner Dario Franchitti, were disoriented after the race in Iowa. So what's the culprit? Well, part of it is the nearly constant G-force that you have going on these short ovals. Now, 1 G is 1 time your body weight. So let's take a driver's head for an example. It weighs 10 to 12 pounds. You put a helmet on it, it weighs 15. Very similar to a bowling ball. So 1 G means 15 pounds or a bowling ball hanging on your neck muscles. Well, here you do 4.5 Gs. That's 4.5 bowling balls, almost 70 pounds. Well, there's no way you could possibly support that with your neck muscles. So what you do, you use your head restraint that we know for accidents. It's now a head rest. This is almost a force fit on the helmet to support that 70 pounds. Now, what about the disorientation? I checked in with the medical staff, and Dr. Mike Ohinger said it's not really the G-force, it's your vestibular apparatus, the fancy medical term for the area near your ear canal that compensates for the pressure and the angle you're at. So therefore, it's not a problem when you're on the racetrack, it's a problem when you stop. Very much like being on a boat, stepping off, and then having sea legs. Now check out the difference between Iowa and Richmond. Higher G's actually here at Richmond, but look at this number. 87% of the time, you're cornering at Richmond.
Didn't even know I had a vestibular apparatus, but I'm glad to know that I do. Professor Bekas with us, and of course Robbie Buell, who has raced here many times. Boy, when you watch the cars go around in 16 seconds or less, it's obvious that things can happen very quickly here.
Yeah, wow, what a place. You know, 300 laps, like you say, 16-second laps. I've heard a couple other people describe it, and it really is the best way. Imagine a gymnasium and a bunch of fighter jets flying around that gymnasium. Well, they're doing everything. Those pilots are doing everything they can just to stay in that gymnasium. The same thing the race drivers are doing here. But imagine if those fighter pilots were trying to pass the jet in front of them in that confined space. It's tough to do, and that's just what it is for the race drivers here. There's a reason Richmond's the action track, and we're going to see it tonight.
And Robbie, after the action in last night's night practice, I talked to the drivers, a little bit of good news, bad news. Bad news was, you know, I don't think I can find a way to get by anybody. And after 25 or 30 laps, my car starts sliding around. I can't hang on to it. Well, the flip side, the good news is if your car does start to slide around lap 25 or 30, then it's only 3/4 of a mile around. It starts to back up a traffic jam. Then we'll have some passing.
Let's talk very quickly about Ryan Briscoe. He's the points leader, but he has finished second the last 3 races. At this point in the season, are you satisfied with the second?
Yeah, we heard him say earlier, you have to be in that position. You know, you got to be up front and keep doing what they're doing, and the wins will come.
I don't think he needs to focus too much on the wins. I think he said the key line, you have to focus on the championship, as he told Lindy. That's the big picture. I give him kudos. You know, better second than not finishing. I think he's doing a great job.
Well, we were about to get the command to start our race here tonight. Thanks for joining us on IndyCar Central on Versus. We'll be back in just a moment with the start of today's race. The lights of Richmond mark the final oval in this 6-track stretch. With only 29 points separating the top 4 drivers, can Briscoe find the edge needed to place him in victory lane? Or can pole sitter Dario Franchitti post a 3rd victory in 2009, pushing him even closer to a national championship? This is IndyCar Racing on Versus. Saturday night in Richmond, Virginia, and the SunTrust Indy Challenge as we get set for 300 laps of racing, about 225 miles on this racetrack, and the race fans always turn out in droves here at Richmond. E.J. Viso is the only driver who has not finished a race this year. Got in trouble on the first lap last week, and boy, is he looking to turn things around, in addition to Tony Kanaan, who has run into a string of bad luck. But we'll watch E.J. Viso, as he didn't have a bad qualifying effort. He'll start from tonight's 7th position. Not hardly a cloud in the sky. There is a little bit to the west, but no rain projected for this event here at Richmond International Raceway. 20 cars get set to go. We'll have the starting lineup for you in just a moment. This is the 176th IndyCar Series race in its history. Let's go down to Scott Sims, the Executive Vice President for Central Indiana Retail Banking, for the command.
Richmond International Raceway fans, are you ready? It's time for those most famous words in motorsports. Please welcome back SunTrust Executive Vice President of Central Virginia Retail Banking, Mr. Scott Sims, as he gives the command.
Drivers, start your engines.
Okay, engine start command has been given. Starting with row 1, count them off. Race control, row 1 hot. 2 hot. 3 hot. 4 hot. 5 hot. 6 hot. 7 hot. 8 hot. 10 hot. 10 hot. Row 2, how you doing? Row 2 hot.
Engines have started, and momentarily they'll be moving out behind the pace car for a couple of warm-up laps before we get the green flag to start our evening of racing. It's great to have you with us here on Versus as we continue our coverage of the IndyCar Series. There's a look at Marco Andretti and Justin Wilson. They will line up back in the 8th row, and the field now begins to move away. Dario Franchitti had a 4-lap average here of 167.315 miles an hour, and that was enough to earn him the peak Performance Pole Award. 4 laps of qualifying on ovals this year in the IndyCar Series, and he put together 4 good ones. So he joins the list of pole position winners in 2009, winning $10,000 from Peak Performance. Let's take a look at the starting lineup for today's race, as we have several drivers who have turned in their best performance of the year as far as starting positions are concerned. Back in row 2, it's Briscoe and Helio Castroneves, Graham Rahal and Rafa Matos. EJ Viso has his best starting position on an oval, and so is Rafa Matos. We go back and find that in the 5th row, Thomas Scheckter will join Danica Patrick. Mike Conway, the other Ryan Bull driver, will line up beside Robert Dornbos. Dan Weldon and Ed Carpenter back in the 7th row. 8th row consists of Justin Wilson and Marco Andretti. In row 9, look at this, Tony Kanaan all the way back in 17th starting position, Ryan Hunter-Reay alongside, and in the back row, it's Mario Moraes and Jacques Lazier, and Mario had a crash in his final practice last night. Jacques Lazier will carry one of our onboard cameras tonight. He'll be starting back in 20th position. Tony Kanaan, starting from 17th, carries an onboard. Thomas Scheckter, who had a great race at Iowa, will start from the 9th position. Hideki Muto will start up in the 8th position. Let's go down to Jack Arute.
All right, fellas, here's the way I break things out tonight. You heard Jan Beekers talk about the tires start to slip and slide after 25 laps. Then what I want to do is I want to be able to have a brand new set of Firestone Firehawks for about lap 275 and beyond. And I think the whole key to this race tonight is watching who has the best set of Dr. Feelgoods, as I call them, to strap onto that car when we get into that 25 lap to go window. The guy that does that and has the best tires, I think is going to win this race. We'll track it.
Mobil 1 track conditions, it's 81 degrees at green flag time with 92 degrees on the track. Winds are calm and nothing but clear skies. Half a lap to go, guys, and we're going to be racing on a Saturday night in Virginia. Dario Franchitti lined up alongside Scott Dixon. Here they come off of turn number 4 in the Apex Brazil green flag waves. Here we go.
300 laps around here. Get busy.
Oh, there's Scheckter very high. They said you couldn't run the high line. He was trying it.
And we have a yellow already as a car has spun. And that's Jacques Lazier over in turn number 2. And he looks like he's made contact with something because there's a piece of debris laying on the racetrack.
Not what Greg Beck and 3G wanted. I mean, you know, they came here this weekend and they just want to log miles with Jacques Lazier, keep growing as a team, improving their product. Not the plan.
Nope.
Nope.
Jacques, a former pole sitter here at the Richmond International Raceway. Let's take a look at what happened.
Well, he starts at the back of the field and he is near another car. It just steps out. They've had trouble with this car all weekend. He's a guy who sat on the pole and he's won races at other locations. And look, he's all by himself. He has clean air.
Yeah, and this is running into turn 1 right there by himself.
Just turns around, and when your balance is not right, that's what happens.
Well, he's climbing out and he's okay, but it does bring to a halt the green flag, so we're under caution for the first time. Stay with us for more of the SunTrust Indy Challenge.
Still under a caution for Jacques Lazier, who got up into the loose stuff, as they say. For cautions, though, it seems that if you're on a short track, well, cautions breed cautions. And in this season, Milwaukee, hey, we had a lot of cautions there as well as the most cautions. Well, there were 8 at the Indianapolis 500, but that's 500 miles. But, guys, one of the things we want to talk about here is, remember, just about an hour before this race, the Silver Crown cars for USAC that run a different type of rubber competed in a 100-miler here, won by Brian Tyler. Historically, they're part of the action here on the SunTrust weekend, but here's what happens. That rubber builds up a different consistency on the racetrack. And the first 20 laps or so of every IndyCar race, we see it get attracted to the Firestone rubber. Nobody's really sure why, but it comes off, and I like to call it like cookie dough. you basically waste a set of tires, and it's also very, very dicey for every single driver. This caution may be a little bit of a benefit in that department because you're still rubbing those Firestones against that USAC rubber and kind of picking it up off the racetrack.
And Jack, that is a great point, but I think it's worth saying that Jacques Lazier's issue was not cookie dough. He had a big handling issue or tires not up to temperature, but certainly he was way off the pace and not the way they wanted to start. But it will certainly be a factor once we get cooking here.
Yeah, and for the cookie dough thing, as Jack calls it, you got to get running around this racetrack and get some tire temperature so you actually pick up those tires where Jacques just barely made it into turn 1.
Marco Andretti was the biggest gainer on the very short time that we had green. He moved up 5 positions from 16th to now 11th. Well, here, Mario Marias coming out of the pit area as we go green once again. Let's hope we can get some green flag racing here.
And Mario better get pretty busy getting out of pit road there. That green's out and the boys are coming.
Thomas Scheckter again trying the high side as well, and he gets passed by Marco Andretti, who usually likes to run the high side. Looks like the low side. He's inside his teammate Hideki Muto, who gives him room.
Yeah, look at the movement that's going on in the cars. But if you're gonna make moves on this racetrack, it starts and restarts when everybody's kind of feeling their way out, and Marco's taking advantage of that.
And he is up to 9th position now. Marco Andretti, the biggest mover so far, behind his teammate Hideki Muto.
Of course, both these two cars are Andretti Green Racing. A lot of people after qualifying said, what is wrong with Andretti Green Racing? Well, most of their cars pushed, and it was a day or an afternoon qualifying. At nighttime, the cars always go looser, so actually that setup they had in qualifying works well at night.
While you're watching all this, Dario Franchitti has the lead, and he has now led in 5 consecutive races and 6 total for the year. Going back to Richmond in 2007, Dario has now led in 13 of his last 16 races. Of course, he did not run in 2008 because he was in NASCAR. On board with Scott Dixon running in second, about a half second behind Dario.
Rolling off at turn 4 right there, that really can be a problem area as you try and get power down as a real key. Coming off at turn 2, again, the 2 key areas on this racetrack are off at turn 2 and off at turn 4 of just being able to get back to throttle, And right there, he's got a good shot off. He's not fighting that wheel at all in the cockpit. Looks real good.
Let's watch to see if he's doing any shifting. At the moment, he's staying in 5th gear.
Firestone telemetry will show you almost completely off the throttle there for a moment.
You know, I like the look of this car. He's actually following Dario fairly closely, it looks to me, as Ed Carpenter's on the high side of Kanaan, who's trying to work his way through.
This is the battle for 13th position.
Oh, here comes Weldon.
3 wide there for a moment.
He's just teasing him. He was just trying to fill his mirror. Dan wasn't going to do anything there. He just said, I'm here to be part of this.
13th, 14th, and 15th.
But
Kanaan running 14th.
What we're watching here with Kanaan, who's definitely quicker, it looks like, than Carpenter up in front of him, it just shows you how challenging it is to get around this racetrack.
And he just grabbed like 3 gears because they run 3 top gears. He got slowed down in the corner because he got the air taken off from Ed Carpenter. Bam, 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 went down on that paddle shift and then started grabbing gears.
Watch the replay on your right.
So Dan Weldon has a run in the red, white, and blue, goes down to the bottom on Kanaan. Looks like he has it made, backs out of it, loses all kinds of momentum, and actually it takes him a lap or 2 even to catch back up to Kanaan. He still hasn't done it.
Ed Carpenter started in 14th. He's moved up 1 position. You can see how difficult passing is here.
Robbie, you were talking to Tony Kanaan in the drivers' meeting, and he was saying about this exact point when you're following a car that's not as quick.
Yeah, a car in front of him, you could be running, you know, Tony could be a second faster than Ed there, but really struggle to get by. But Tony was very realistic of saying, hey, we didn't qualify well. I just want to come out of this race in one piece, get points, and was very level-headed about the approach. But he knew this was going to be the challenge right there.
Pulling gears, big lifts in the corners.
But that later on, I think, is going to make for some good racing. I wouldn't worry about the fact that they're all strung out right now. If their predictions, you know, drivers do have a tendency to exaggerate on occasion. But if those tires do start to change, if the car starts to slip and slide, we'll see some action.
Down to Jackaroo.
Well, we brought up to Jacques Lazier to get the latest on what happened there. You had a chance to look at it, Jacques. What happened?
Hey, man, we all knew that the conditions for the track, because of the race that was happening before, that it wasn't going to be ideal. And, you know, we're just at the start of the race. We're just kind of, you know, we've had a car that's been loose all weekend. We're just kind of building up to it and went into turn one and things just snapped around on me. You know, it was even a real slow pace, but, you know, I feel bad for the guys, everybody over at the Novacom 3G Racing. We've been building more and more momentum, and this is the last thing we wanted.
Jacques, it's good to know, though, you're okay.
Yeah, it's good to know.
So Jacques Lazier is out of tonight's race in a very short order. Dario Franchitti is the leader as he comes up on slower traffic. He has about a half-second lead over Dixon, Briscoe, Castroneves, and Matos. Dario Franchitti in front at Richmond. As you saw in IndyCar Nonstop, Ryan Briscoe crashes here at Richmond. So much for the second place finishes that he has had. The pits are open and pit stops are beginning. Franchitti, Dixon, and Castroneves are your top three, and here are their pit stops.
And we're not going to get a chance to find out what happened after 30 laps of green racing because we didn't get there yet. They're going to come in and get those new tires and get rid of that cookie dough that Jack was talking about. Franchitti with a 6.5, the quickest on pit road. Nice job.
So Franchitti will lead his teammate Scott Dixon off pit lane, and Elio Castroneves will drop into third spot. Matos fourth, Rahal. Kanaan picks up fifth, 5 positions, and moves up to 6th.
Nice. Big jump there.
All right, let's take a look at what happened to Ryan Briscoe, who had, going into tonight's race, completed every lap.
And there he is, yep, coming off a turn 2, and he was still rolling off a 2. So usually the problem spot there is the track falls away as you get closer to the exit, but he was already coming around as he's putting the power down, coming off a 2.
He had that same issue, and let's listen first.
Power, now you're thinking power.
Yeah. There. And Robbie, you had talked about the 2 key areas on the racetrack were when you lose the banking. When you go from the 14 degrees to where it flattens out, that's one of those locations. And if you remember in qualifying, if you were with us, he threw in some big time corrections and at nighttime. And after you've had some miles on the car, it gets even slicker.
But what's funny there, it's not where he just came around is not where it's getting totally flat. It's still rolling off the bank, and it's just a function of him wanting to get back to power, and it wasn't taking it.
Ryan's first DNF since a mechanical failure at Nashville almost a year ago. 2 drivers did not pit. Hideki Muto and Danica Patrick, their first and second. Stay with us for more on Versus. All right, up front, Hideki Muto and Danica Patrick, and these are the first laps that Hideki Muto has led in his IndyCar career. How about that? They didn't pit.
And I like this move. If Jack says earlier that yellows breed yellow, why not stay out? There wasn't that many green miles on the tires, and in fact, Tony Kanaan, when he made his pit stop, they chose not even to change the tires. So you see everyone else going for tires on pit road. They don't even have them out. They're just going to take fuel quickly, try and gain track position. And again, the issue this weekend, the tires have been wearing fantastically. They say you could double or triple stint them. It's just they go off the sweet spot.
Yeah, and I think what's really interesting there, we talked about the sprint car race that was prior to this, and historically we pick up that rubber. We were going to go green there. We're still going to go yellow another lap. But what I find is interesting, obviously that sprint car rubber is not affecting the balance on the race car, because Kanaan had a chance to take tires. They said, no, let's get track position and get back out there. So, very good.
So, Tony Kanaan is in 8th position for the restart as we go down to Robbie.
Kevin O'Donnell, your team came in front, and it looks like they came out in front. Does it put more pressure on you being a tight racetrack and knowing that it's this bull ring that it is Richmond?
No, I'd say it's the same amount of pressure every week. We just try to have clean stops, no mistakes, and you know, if we stay out front, we stay out front.
Any adjustments on the car? He looks awful fast.
No, just tires.
Green flag racing, Bob Jiggins, let's get it going. The bull ring is back.
And you see Kanaan go on the outside of Graham Rahal. And now high, we've got Dario Franchitti going by Danica.
Boy, he did go by Danica, but big wiggle from Danica. She tried to hold off Dario Franchitti's challenge, could not do it. And now we see Marco Andretti up on the high side once again.
EJ Viso.
Viso's not giving that up. He's going to come back.
This is the battle for ninth. Viso still has it. It's Graham Rahal, of course, up there in the 02 McDonald's-sponsored car. And Thomas Scheckter comes along.
Wow. It just happens so quick around this racetrack. Just, you know, if one guy gets hung up a little bit, it just gives you such a great opportunity.
Did Marco and Graham touch here?
Right there, yes, they
big
did.
touch, yeah.
Marco held on to that, didn't he? That's what gave Viso that big run that came up in there.
Yeah.
Excellent job there by Marco. He's up on the wheel.
Where you see smoke, there's contact.
That's right. Oh, and up front, Franchitti tries to get the lead from Muto.
He got down right on the flat line, the transition line from the banking to the flat, and gave himself a moment right there. Look at that yellow line.
And Dario was one of those drivers that was saying, even if I have a fast car, it's going to be really tough to overtake. Well, he wasn't exaggerating.
Yeah, but you know, what's great to see here, right? We have a lot of guys that are looking at the second groove of this racetrack. A lot of guys are working up top. And as long as everybody's looking to the high side of this racetrack, they'll keep that clean. So it just will make that much better racing as we push through.
All right, back to third and fourth. Danica Patrick has her hands full with Scott Dixon.
And Dick, when I talked to Franchitti after the drivers' meeting, I said, so you're going to just lap this whole field? You were so fast in qualifying. He kind of laughed and snickered, and he pointed at this guy right here, Scott Dixon. He said, that's the man that I'm concerned about.
Teammates help each other, but when it comes to race day, obviously any race driver wants to beat his teammate. He knows the toughest guy in the field is right there in the same transporter.
We saw Marco Andretti and Graham Rahal touch there, and Graham Rahal has said over his radio he feels his car is fine. Marco says the same thing, but his crew says they're really going to watch the back left because they think something may have happened there.
Oh, we will watch carefully then. And Ed Carpenter and Dan Weldon. That was for 12th position. Carpenter takes 12. He's having a good race so far, the yellow number 20.
You know, in qualifying, his car was rock solid. We saw a lot of other people slipping and sliding, and having a rock solid car, even though it might not be the fastest, well, that's what you want when come race time.
And the word that he gave to me, Jan, was I have a consistent car. As you say, not the fastest, but it's consistent. And as a racer, if you have something that's consistent, that gives you confidence, and you can dial the car throughout the race, whether you want to use your weight jack or your bars or when you come to pit stops. That consistency gives you the ability to adjust and make better.
There's another guy that could use a very strong finish here tonight, Ed Carpenter. He has competed on this racetrack in not just an IndyCar, but he was in the Silver Crown Series for USAC and finished second in 2002 and third in 2003 in Silver Crown cars. Meanwhile, back up front, it's Dario Franchitti once again closing in on Hideki Muto.
And I'm just looking at the lap times right now. Hideki's doing lap times of 17.3, and the race pace we saw last night in practice was a couple tenths quicker than that, but very good.
Let's talk to Ryan Briscoe. Jackson.
Ryan, you had a chance to look at a couple of the replays. Has it helped you figure out what happened?
Well, I mean, I lost the rear on the exit of 2, but it really did just catch me by surprise. I was really battling an understeering car. And I'm not sure if I just got some buffeting from the car in front of me, but you know, I was just taking it easy. I was saving fuel and just hanging in there. And it's just so disappointing to have this happen so early on.
Now, last night there was a practice at about 9:30 to try and get a feel for what the track would be like. Has the track changed since last night, or why would there be such a surprise tonight?
It's pretty similar, I think. You know, we made a few setup changes coming into the race tonight. hoping to make it better. And I thought it was okay, but it felt like my front tyres were going away. You know, maybe it was a case I just had a bit too much lock in the steer, and it just caught in the transition of the banking as I was coming off the corner. But man, it's just so disappointing.
Thanks, Ryan.
Well, this is going to shake up the point standings. That is for sure, as Ryan Briscoe will finish in 19th position in tonight's race. Hideki Muto is the leader of this race by about 0.3 of a second over Dario Franchitti. Non-stop coming up on Versus. Stay with us. 67 laps completed out of 300, and Hideki Muto continues to lead. And he does well in the short ovals. His best two finishes have been on the 7/8 of a mile oval at Iowa. Second in 2008. He finished third last week. And these are his only top 5 finishes in his career. But he is once again under attack from Dario Franchitti.
And I think the reason he's under attack, he's starting to get into the dirty air of Mario Moraes, who is ahead. At the moment, he had been, or formerly, he was in clean air all the time. Dario Franchitti had to fight the dirty air. Now, all of a sudden, he's got to struggle with the car, and I know Dario is going to get really itchy about getting by.
And then on top of that, Muto's also done 70 laps on those tires, where Franchitti's on lap tires that are only 40 laps. So they're just, as the tires wear along, they just kind of lose grip. That's just naturally what they do. So on top of chasing down Moraes in front of him and taking the air off, he's got that to fight with too.
Scott Dixon runs in 4th spot behind Danica Patrick. And again, Patrick and Hideki Muto did not pit when we had the caution for Ryan Briscoe.
Back on board with Dixon here. And look at how smooth he is with this wheel. Here he's heading right to turn 3. It's a pretty abrupt turn in right there, but just he doesn't fight the wheel.
Robbie Floyd has more.
Well, I just talked to Barry Wanzer just a moment ago and asked him about Dario Franchitti. I said, does he want to get by Hideki, or is he just biding his time? As you see Scott Dixon on board, I think everybody wants to get by, but as far as the Target Chip Ganassi team, they don't want to waste too much fuel. That's what they're telling me right now. So not only tire conservation, as we hear always, but also fuel conservation. That's something to be concerned with as well.
Well, what's interesting, Robbie, is that if you wanted to, you could do 113 laps on a tank of fuel if you were in fuel position 4. I don't think I would want to be doing that. When we've heard from drivers saying 25, 30 laps, they go off the sweet spot of the tires. I would say, forget about fuel conservation. Just find a way for me to get some new tires.
Can you imagine what the driver will be saying in that cockpit if his strategist on pit stand was like, no, we're going to go the distance and we're going to do 115 laps? We'd have to tap into that to get some of those choice words coming back out.
Rafa Matos running in 6th position. Right behind him is Tony Kanaan. Rafa Matos in a battle for Rookie of the Year honors in the IndyCar Series.
One of those teams that tested here, he actually had an opportunity to test twice, was very competitive in testing, had helped him, tested here with the Penske team, and now he runs right behind Castroneves.
As you say, Rafael Matos has tested here twice. It's also the first time for Lusso Dragon and Rafa's first time here as a race. He says the car was consistent yesterday. He believes it will be today. He also said, guys, that we are very fortunate to have our pit spot where we are because we have so much space on the way in and on the way out. And he says he thinks that's going to help him today.
Well, it is a great-looking car in that Marines car. And another thing, Rafa was one of those guys that said, how did your test go here? And he said, man, I was a little dizzy. It's so busy around this place. So he's another guy that, agrees that, once you stop and get out of the car, there's a little disorientation.
His vestibular apparatus was...
Hey, you're getting good at that, Bob. You're getting there.
Yeah. You keep going with that, Bob. I'll sit right here in between you, and I'll just give you the thumbs up on that.
Now, Danica Patrick, we got a great shot of her there in the Boost mobile machine, is that she said right after qualifying to Indy, you know what, we're going to have to play some pit strategy after not having the kind of qualifying that we wanted. And boy, true to form, exactly what she wanted. They didn't pit. At some point, she's going to need to come in and get tires, but you'll go as far as you can. You just don't want to pit under green here.
No way.
Danica Patrick runs in 3rd position. just behind Dario Franchitti and Hideki Muto, who continues to lead at the SunTrust Indy Challenge from Richmond International Raceway.
I think it's depending on where you're running. If you were Tony Kanaan, who was back in the field and you needed track position, it was a great call. But if you're a leader, and from what these cars have felt, and again, they're not running full burn pace here like you'd have for a sprint to the finish. I still think you want fresh tires at the end. And I think only if you need to make up track position, if you're running maybe out of the top 6, would you bypass a tire stage.
And another whole key to that is you want to come in when it goes yellow. You know, so how that plays in here, because right now our leader right there, Hideki Muto, he's just praying for a yellow. The last thing he wants to do is come in under green right now. So I think that's a factor of how you take that.
And hats off to Mario Moraes. We said he was catching Mario Moraes, so Mario Moraes is kind of pulling away, staying on the lead lap. Remember, he ducked onto pit road early, so he should have plenty of fuel. Nice job.
Hey guys, Mario Moraes is driven with an extra added incentive tonight. He usually drives with just regular blue gloves, but with the passing of Michael Jackson, who he was a huge fan of, they sent out and got flown into Richmond a special set of driving gloves. Tonight, as he continues to keep pace and refusing to get lapped, he is driving with the glove on one hand that Michael Jackson made famous. A silver driving glove was manufactured over the last day for Mario Moraes, and he's running here at Richmond with that in tribute to the king of pop.
How about that?
Yeah,
Michael
I like that.
Jackson's death reaches the IndyCar series. Good story, Jack. Well, no driver has scored his or her first win at Richmond. Hideki Muto would like to be the first to do that tonight. All 18 cars out there are still running on the lead lap. We've had 2 retirements, namely Jacques Lazier, who hit the wall in the second turn on the first lap, and then Ryan Briscoe crashed on lap 26.
And speaking of Ryan Briscoe, to revisit that to some degree, he said that the car was pushing, yet it stepped out. And Robbie, that's a phenomenon that's strange to some, but if you have, as he described, the wheel turn more because the front's giving up, if it grabs right as you lose the transition of the banking, the back will snap out.
And when, you know, a car that you want to have is an understeering car or pushing, it's predictable. And as he said, as that front was pushing, eventually it built up enough slip angle and grip in that front tire, they bit and it came around. And that's what just catches a driver absolutely off guard. And we saw it in Briscoe's face when we interviewed him there. He's like, I don't know, it just snapped out. Didn't feel it coming at all.
Well, Hideki Muto is going to have to make a stop under green. That's going to be a killer for track position. It was great while he had it. If something happens after he stops and it goes yellow, they'll give everything up.
They laid out. The tires are on the pit box. And we'll expect a pit stop from Hideki Muto sometime.
But even when you say that, is saying, yeah, he's got to make that green stop, you never give up because you don't know how it's going to cycle out. We still got another 200 laps going.
All right. Drops down to the apron of the racetrack and enters the pit lane. And Lindy, he's coming toward you. Hideki Muto gives up the lead.
Hideki pits for the first time. He will come in and get no adjustments. He will get sticker tires and fuel. His strategist, Kim Green, said he did not pit the first time because they didn't need to. He said they hadn't used much fuel, and he said their strategy is position. Dario Franchitti now in the lead, and Hideki Muto is now taking off the pit lane.
And so Hideki loses a lap, and there is our first lap car as Moraes way up high as Franchitti passed him, and that was a nice save.
And for Moraes right now, once you get up in that high side and you pick up some of those marbles, it's going to take him an extra lap or 2 to clean those tires again. So it's not just him getting out of throttle and turn forward. It's going to take another lap and a half for him to get back up to speed.
He was fighting to stay on the lead lap, but they were told in the driver's meeting, once you go a lap down, stay low. They don't want lap cars getting high and getting out there. You can see that Dario had dove underneath, and as soon, he's way outside of the line, but he manages to keep it off of the wall. You lose a lap, but you're still running.
And there he is. He's getting rid of those tires, so he's not going to have to spend 2 laps of cleaning them up. He's got some fresh skins on that thing right now. The guy I want to keep an eye on right now on our board as he gets up to running is I want to keep an eye on Hideki Muto. I'm curious to see what his lap times are now that he's put sticker tires, as we're 100-plus laps into this race, just to gauge what sticker tires do and revisit what Jack said. Does track position trump new tires? Let's keep an eye on Hideki's times.
It's also worth saying, again, Danica Patrick's also going to have to pit under green. After they stop, if there's a caution, they're cooked.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
But you lose over a lap when you stop.
Down to Lindy once again for Danica's pit stop.
And Danica will get sticker tires and fuel, but unlike Hideki, she will make some changes here. She is going to get some front wing. They are going to be adding one turn. You can see they're getting the tires on right now, filling that up with fuel, and here she goes.
Well, now, I'm going to our leaderboard over here, and Hideki Muto is running a half-second faster than our lead cars right now. So obviously those sticker tires are worth something, but again, does that outweigh track position having those new tires? We see just how tough it is to pass around here. So even though you may have those new tires and you can run a half-second quicker, doesn't mean you can do anything with it to get by them.
Dario Franchitti has about a 1.4 second lead on Scott Dixon at the SunTrust Indy Challenge from Richmond.
The race got off to a rocky start, certainly for Jacques Lazier. Nowhere near the cars ahead of him. Said he was taking it easy. The car stepped out. They've had a loose car all weekend. But wow, that is a car out of balance on a slippery racetrack. Someone you would think who had a great handle on the racetrack tested here, who is the championship point leader, also the person who had finished every single lap of the championship, even bit Ryan Briscoe.
And more than 1/3 of the race has gone by already. We're on lap 122 on board with Hideki Muto, who led some laps but made a pit stop under green and now falls a lap down back in 16th position. Most cautions at Richmond, 9.
Now remember when I was saying, why would you be out there saving fuel? You don't want to do 113 laps as Dario starts to get aggressive with Mario Moraes, who's now slowed. Well, now it starts to make sense. Everyone's looking for caution. If something happens now, and Target Ganassi, as well as some of these others, can pit, all of a sudden that saving fuel and running around here would definitely pay dividends.
Right. Anytime you can save fuel and extend that window, great. Jack, you got more?
You know, we talk always looking for the little things, guys. As we begin to run more and more races, these pit crews try to become innovative. This is Dario Franchitti's pit sign. Now, normally it would have a 10 on it, but because it's a night race, take a look at what the crew's done. They've lit it up so it adds for better visibility. Up and down pit road, more and more teams are trying to come up with concepts that will make the pit area stand out. Franchitti and Dixon have gone with lit signboards tonight. It's the little things.
And you know, what Jack's saying, those little things are an important. Look at what's happened, you know, at Texas with the pits. That's how Elio won that race and getting the line. So anything the teams can do to help the drivers find their pit box and just knock a half-second off, great.
Here's a battle between new tires and old tires. Tony Kanaan on the old tires, Danica Patrick on some fresh tires, and she is much more racy, trying to put it to her teammate, but it's tough to find room. Here she comes, she's got momentum. She should have him in the next corner.
Yep, she's alongside. That's as clean a pass as you get there. And you know, TK's not just on old tires, he's on tires that he's done close to 130 laps on.
Dornbos got some new tires as well, took that opportunity to get some stickers. People diving on pit road. Ryan Hunter-Ray, another one. They'll be, if everyone ends up making stops on green, everybody will cycle. It's only if there's a yellow and some people get lucky.
Yep. Well, and the two folks that are hoping for all that green cycle are the two people we saw first make that stop of Muto and Patrick. Just remember that at the front end of all these green cycle stops.
Yeah, we saw Danica passing Kanaan a while ago, but remember Danica is a lap down in 15th position. Kanaan runs 5th.
But those are still useful spots because if it stays green and Tony pits, he'll lose the same amount of time that she did. Mike Conway diving down on the pit road as well.
And look at what a tough pit road it is. It just flattens out and it is so tight around there. You got to really tiptoe. but not tiptoe where you give up any time. That's the trade-off.
Mike had a great run at Iowa, as did Thomas Schechter. Crew goes to work on the charter-sponsored car. Little front wing there, and he goes back out.
Put a little bit of front wing on that left side.
Down to Jack.
All right, Rafa Matos with the Marine Corps livery for Jay Penske. He's got 4 new Firestone Firehawks, or as I like to call them, and I think a driver would agree, Dr. Feelgoods. All right, let's go to Robbie Floyd. More action.
Dan Weldon, he's been talking about the car having some problems, going to make a wing adjustment. They had problems making those adjustments earlier. On last 30, no problems this time. He's gained a couple of spots since he qualified in 13th. He was 11 when he came in just then.
A lot of people adding front wing, meaning that the track is starting to gain some rubber. More front wing means less push. Tony Kanaan setting up for a pit stop. Also appears as though the target team might also be ready. And this, like you said, Danica Patrick, Hideki Muto, they're going, please, no yellow, please.
And so there's our leader, Dario Franchitti. It looked as though he's definitely gotten a little more aggressive of how he's tried to go on through traffic. He's gone 104 laps. We're looking at Carpenter coming in the Menards car, 20 car. Hit your marks, roll it in. Had a pit box in front of him. He had to come around.
Great overhead shot. He was in 9th position. And TK is on pit lane.
Just stripped off his visor. Lindy?
The defending winner of this race is pulling in here right now. He is going to get a little bit of a front wing adjustment and some sticker tires and fuel. He was really disappointed with his qualifying position. Says they regrouped overnight and hoping to make the most out of this race.
Half turn of front wing for Kanaan, just finishing up for Marco Andretti. Another clean stop. Lots of great pit stops considering how many races these crews have run in a row. They're fatigued. It's late at night. Those are some nice stops.
It's a yellow. That is Conway that's gotten in the wall, and Franchitti was just ducking in.
If somebody hasn't pitted, they just got a huge bonus.
And Franchitti was heading to the pits and stayed out. Did you see him just come down the inside off of 2?
Lucky dog.
Okay, get that in fuel conservation, get it up in 5th gear, and be easy on the throttle. That's what they're telling Franchitti.
He's going to have a lap on the field, as well as who else is not Dixon? Has not been in. No, the CI here is Franchitti and Dixon.
Yeah, and so Conway, who we're looking at on our screen, we just saw he had just come in for some new tires.
And Rahal missed it. Rahal just went on the pit road.
I believe Graham Rahal has not also pitted. So
well, he got scored. I'm showing that he ducked onto the pit road, but maybe he did.
Look who's coming down, boys.
Yep.
Race leader. He obviously didn't have enough fuel. Robbie?
That appears to be the case with Dario Franchitti. They were set up. They had the tires out, ready to throw 4 new set of Firestone Firehawks on. You see the little splash and go. It was a necessity. They were running out of gas. He needed to come in, just a little splash, but they have 4 tires here ready to put on. Yeah. But again, they've got to do that a little bit later, guys.
Right, but of course, Robbie, he couldn't take those tires. He'll be back on pit road again, well, if he so chooses, which you would if you're at the back of the order.
No, he has to. You make a stop.
You have to, yes,
you
sir.
have to make a stop. If you pit like Franchitti did while the pits are closed, you have to come back down pit road.
When it opens.
When it opens, right.
When it opens. But, you know, I thought when he ducked back in and then stayed out, I thought he probably could conserve enough fuel.
Well, let's see what happened to Mike Conway. As Robbie indicated, he had just left pit lane. Ooh,
got high. The same sort of, we saw that earlier.
But how he got high, though, it looked as though he rushed up on Carpenter too quick. Didn't just the closing rate there and had to go high. He wasn't trying to pass him up high. He closed too quick.
Now, on the story with Graham Rahal, it appears as though he did not pit. He did the same thing that Dario did, where he was ducking down on the pit road and aborted at the last second. Looks like Scott Dixon also does not have enough fuel to make it. Again, this will be just a quick one, Robbie.
Pitch must be open.
Look at it. Scott Dixon again. Dario Franchitti had to come in. Now he pulls in just in front of his teammate. Scott Dixon moves out. Dario Franchitti was talking about he was loose coming out of the turn. He didn't see a wing adjustment at all, but he took those 4 tires he needed desperately. Another case of he had to have fuel earlier, and the yellow came out at the wrong time. Graham Rahal, he told me at the start of the day he was going to have a lot of work ahead of him, but he looks like he's doing pretty good so far.
Looked like he had a bad pit stop or something, didn't it?
Well, who cares?
Yeah, right. It's under caution.
He was going to be,
there was a hesitation.
But he was going to have that track position anyway. So just to review, these 3 cars that we just saw pit are essentially 7/8 of a lap ahead of the rest of the field. So they have a huge advantage coming back to green.
Namely Dixon, Franchitti, and Rahal. We've completed 142 laps of the SunTrust Indy Challenge. Under caution here at Richmond International Raceway, Scott Dixon is the leader of the race, and we got to make 1 point now. The pace car will eventually pick up the leader. That means that all of the cars that are ahead of Scott Dixon right now, including those that had already pitted, will get the wave around. Most laps led by a race winner, 134 by Scott Dixon at Kansas.
So the order right now would have been Franchitti and then Dixon, but Franchitti had to make that extra stop because he was running low on fuel. But yes, these 3 cars in the picture are going to be 1, 2, and 3 once they wave everybody else by. That's why I was saying, who cares about Graham Rahal? They waited for a yellow, and boy, did that pay a big dividend.
Always nice to come to Richmond International Raceway because these are race fans. They turn out for the IndyCar race and for the NASCAR race. Our subject of the IZOT Presents 100 Years of Victory, Juan Pablo Montoya.
You're the winner of the Indianapolis 500. Pal.
Indeed, 24-year-old Juan Montoya wins the 84th running of the Indianapolis 500.
It's amazing how much history is here, you know, and I think that's what makes Indy so special. You know, I think it's a unique track, you know, as an oval is unique, being completely square. That makes it special. I think the amount of people that come and watch makes it special, and the history behind it, you know, it's cool.
Juan Pablo Montoya has raced every type of car here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. He's won the Indy 500. He's raced in Formula One. Now a second-place finish in NASCAR.
Mike, take me through what happened in that accident.
Basically, Ed came out of the pits and, you know, went to go around him. I think I went in a little bit too hard and just kissed the marbles. And once you're on the marbles, that's it. You can't get off there. I was just a passenger at that point, so it's a shame. The Charter car was running quite well when we were on our own, so I really wanted to just to finish this race. But you know, now we're looking forward to Watkins Glen. Obviously, I think we're going to be strong there, so I can't wait to get there.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Mike Conway becomes our 3rd driver to retire tonight in the SunTrust Indy Challenge. Lazier, Briscoe, and Conway have all dropped out of the race due to crashes. And the leader is going to be Scott Dixon with Dario Franchitti second. There is Dixon. We're going to have 1 lap to go at the line. We go back to green flag racing. Teammate Dario Franchitti runs in 2nd spot. There is Graham Rahal, who's having a good night in 3rd spot. And back and forth is going to be Hideki Muto, but there is Mario Moraes along with Tony Kanaan. Then we pick up Hideki Muto in the 4th spot. We've got 7 cars on the lead lap. Tony Kanaan is a lap down in 8th. Marco Andretti 9th. Dornbos, Weldon, Schechter, Carpenter, Viso, Wilson, and Hunter Ray are all a lap down. Getting set for the restart. 154 laps about to be completed. We're back to green.
And Kanaan, the 4th one back there, he shot right by Moraes right on that restart.
He knows he has to make up ground after the wave by being a lap down.
Well, that's where there's an interesting strategy right now, not just what we're watching on the racetrack, but from Kanaan, who's an 8th back. Those guys are all lapped down. Look at that side by Muto's. Like, look out, I'm coming through.
Big wiggle for him,
had a wiggle at the bottom.
And he dumped that throttle. Look at the guys going by him. Oh, man. You know, sometimes we've seen Moraes, he gets those big wiggles in practice, but he still stays out on the track. If it was practice and I had those big wiggles, I'd be coming in.
That was just a magnificent save by him.
He just laid the chop to Danica Patrick, though.
Yeah.
See Schechter point his nose down Graham Rahal there. Yep. Really kind of got down in low.
Viso is still in the race. Let's hope he can put together a full race here tonight, having not finished a race so far this year. E.J. Viso, who I thought, again, as I mentioned on the qualifying show yesterday, I thought he'd be at least in the top 10 at this point in the season.
Yeah, absolutely a talent. And, you know, he knows what he has to do is finish this race. But even though they've had such a challenging time, I love his personality. He still comes across with great confidence in terms of what his ability and what his job is. And that's what makes a great race driver. You've got to have that confidence to get through, you know, the bad times of not finishing any races.
Scheckter trying to chase down Doornbos. Remember, it was Scheckter who went around the outside of Doornbos in the last race. Just as Doornbos was losing it, on the outside was Scheckter making up all kinds of positions.
Take a look at Marias up on the top side of Danica.
Wow.
Right in front of her.
Look at that. I don't think he held his line there. What do you guys think?
No, I don't think so. And that's why we heard that race control was looking at that. He got a penalty in Iowa. You know that they're watching him carefully right now.
Ed Carpenter is in 13th spot.
And look at how the momentum shifts. We saw Scheckter challenging Doornbos. He didn't make it work, and now he's just kind of come back into the clutches, and he's got to worry more about Ed Carpenter, who's chasing him, than focusing on the guy in front of him.
That's Justin Wilson right behind Carpenter.
One of the reasons why the cleanup for Mike Conway was so long was you saw in some of the shots they sent out the sweepers and tried to sweep all 3 lanes and encourage people trying to run the high line.
Scott Dixon has led 24 of the 163 laps so far and has about a 9/10 of a second lead on second place Dario Franchitti. And there's Dario,
who has this position, which was pretty amazing, the fact that he had to make an extra pit stop, but he still runs second to his teammate.
And in third position is Graham Rahal, Indy.
Graham earlier was complaining of some understeer, and he actually said the car was twitching, but now he says he feels like the car is coming to him, guys.
And that, you know, the car is coming to him. The challenge around here is you just want to tune that car. Looking at Kanaan chasing him down, doing everything he can to want to get that lap back.
He is in 8th position, 7 seconds behind and a lap down to the leader. We go back through the field as we pick up the next car on the racetrack, and that is Hideki Muto, who led considerable laps a while ago, and he is now 5 seconds behind in 4th position. Good on-board shot with Hideki. Next on the track is the 26 car of Marco Andretti. He's a lap down, running in 9th position at the moment.
Very racy, but fell victim to pit strategy.
Started way back in the 16th position. Behind Marco, a lot of racetrack before we get back to the 5 car of Mario Marias, who has had his problems tonight. He is 2 laps down, back in 17th spot. Then Danica Patrick, who is in 5th position, about 10 seconds behind Lindy.
Yeah, and the last time Danica pitted, they did make a front wing adjustment, and she says the car feels great now. It feels a lot better, Jack.
Lindy right behind Danica Patrick is Dan Weldon, who is being shown in the 10th position. This National Guard team is one of those single car entries, and I talked to John Barnes earlier today, and he said, we feel like we have made sufficient gains that we're going to be able to contend for wins shortly, guys.
Robert Doornbos showing McDonald's sponsorship on the side pods of that car this weekend. They're supersizing the McDonald's sponsorship here at Richmond. Doornbos runs back in 11th position, a lap down. The 23 car of Thomas Scheckter is in 12th position. Driving the Dreyer and Reinbold machine for
And there
Wannabe.
we are, on board with Thomas there, just spinning around, looking at him. Still a lap down. Again, he's fighting everything. You could hear him drop a gear as he went through that corner, looking back at Carpenter.
Next in line is the 13th place car of Ed Carpenter.
And Ed Ed Carpenter's only complaint at this point is that he's feeling a little bit of understeer in the exit. Other than that, he says the car's fine. Jack?
And running in 14th position behind Carpenter is Justin Wilson. Remember, Wilson is the guy that wasn't happy with his car at the start of the race. But one of the things that's interesting with this car is Justin Wilson is so big. If you look inside the cockpit, his knees are actually wedged up to the front bulkhead where the cockpit opens up. That is not real comfortable on a short track, guys.
15th place car is E.J. Viso. A lap down. And now here is Helio Castroneves, who is in 6th position, Robbie.
And I talked to Tim Cedric just a moment ago. He said they made a wing adjustment, rear tire pressure on Helio Castroneves. He was talking about the car being loose in 3 and 4, but no problems right now. Jack Garut.
And Ryan Hunter-Reay taking over for an injured Vitor Mira. Remember, guys, when we moved to the Watkins Glen racetrack on the 4th of July, Ryan Hunter-Reay is the defending champion.
And there is the only other car that we haven't talked about. That, of course, is Rafa Matos, who's running in 7th position. He is the last car on the lead lap.
And the leaders are not far behind.
That's right.
There we got Dixon, so they're starting to fill the air, the mirrors there, that Marines car.
Scott Dixon with a 0.7 of a second lead on Dario Franchitti. Scott Dixon leading again here at Richmond International Raceway. Sam Hornish Jr. has 19 IndyCar Career Series wins. Scott Dixon, if he should win tonight, will tie that mark. And this is Scott Dixon's 104th start in the IndyCar Series. He has now led in 54 of the 104 races.
And Robbie Buell, you're absolutely correct. I think that track position is trumping the Firestone tires and the need for them tonight. But interesting is I've been studying the pit stop of Scott Dixon versus Dario Franchitti. Now, Franchitti had to make one additional stop to take on fuel. But when you tally up the total time from the start-finish line, his in-lap and his out-lap, now granted, they were under caution, guess what? Franchitti is 1/10 of a second total aggregate time if you throw out the one for fuel than his teammate Scott Dixon. If this thing comes down to a mano-a-mano contest between Target Chip Ganassi, boy, I'll tell you, it's going to be fun to see which of those pit crews puts his driver in victory lane tonight.
And that's a great point Judd talks about. It's not just about the pit crew and the guys down on pit road and how quick they fill that car up and change tires. It's how quick Dixon or Franchitti get off of pit road, you know, getting out onto the track, getting up to speed on those cold tires. You know, by being 0.2 quicker on that, that may be the difference. Or how quick you get into pit road.
Now, Robbie, you and I were talking a moment ago during break. If you're Tony Kanaan, how do you get your lap back? And the only thing that we can come up with is in another 5 or 10 laps, if there was a caution, the leaders could pit and theoretically make it to the end. And if he stayed out, he might be able to play a gamble and try and get that lap back.
And get a wave around.
Look at TK's hand position here as he goes down the backstretch. TK's isn't straight up and down. Now watch. They're in a corner here.
Well, look at the wheels.
Yeah.
You know, it's how the driver likes to just statically set the wheel. You know, right there, you look at TK's wheel, it's already cocked a little bit to the left. Thomas's comes back to being more straight. And that's just sense and feel that that driver wants. It's the same thing we heard from Weldon. He likes to have his wheel off center so it actually is to the right when you're on the straightaway. Like there's Schechter's straight, TK's is a little to the left. Some drivers like a little to the right, if that all makes sense.
It's all about the preset. Even though the car is going straight, as you can see pretty markedly there with Schechter, it's a little bit to the right. And that's only because by changing the steering rack splines, the way the steering wheel goes on there, you can actually put it wherever you want. And it's just because the hand position in the middle of the corner is where a driver's comfort zone is.
Yeah, but guys, keep in mind with the amount of downforce these guys have to carry in these cars, when you take a look at as much as they're in the corners, some drivers just actually want to exercise a little different set of muscles than others. And with positioning and presetting down, as you say, that steering wheel, well, different strokes for different folks, they always said.
Scott Dixon, this is the 5th race that he has led this year, and they have all been in the last 6 races. Texas is the only oval race in 2009 that Scott has not led, and the interval still about a half a second ahead of Dario Franchitti. Down to Robbie Floyd.
Well, Scott Dixon won here in 2003, and Emma, I know he wants to win for you here tonight because you're heading where, to Indy to have the baby in 3 weeks?
Yeah, unfortunately this is my last race. We got 3 weeks to go till the baby's born, so I better call it quits on the airlines, and yeah, so a win would be fantastic.
We saw two drivers' wives trying to have babies at Indy. Anything special about Indy? I mean, you just wanted to be an Indy baby since he's an IndyCar racer.
It's where we're based. I'd love to go back to England to have a baby because all my friends and family are there, but no, I'm excited to have it in Indy. It makes sense to us, you know. Scott reckons we've got a future 500 winner in here, so it makes sense.
3 weeks down the road, you're supposed to have this baby. Any hints right now?
Yeah, actually, we nearly had it last Tuesday. We thought we had a lot of contractions, and we actually we were given an injection to slow things down, but it can come at any time now.
Isn't that ironic? You're trying to slow things down while Scott's trying to speed things up. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Well, Alex Lloyd and wife had a girl. Ed Carpenter and his wife had a boy. So we'll see what happens with Emma and Scott Dixon in a few days. Dixon leads over Dario Franchitti, Graham Rahal, Hideki Muto, and Danica Patrick, the top 5 in the SunTrust Indy Challenge on Versus. Well, Scott Dixon continues to lead. He has led 73 laps so far. Hideki Muto has led 74. So when he crosses the line, Scott will equal that, and Hideki Muto is on his way to pit lane. Down to Lindy Thaxton.
Hideki Muto, who has led his first laps in IndyCar racing tonight, comes into his pit stall. He is running fourth. Kim Green says that they will take tires and fuel, but they will make no changes to Hideki Muto's car, and he's back out.
9.4-second pit stop. The Formula Green car back on the racetrack in a moment.
And you saw where they were waiting on the fuel probe. The tires were on there just waiting for all the fuel to get in that race car a little longer than they would like it to be.
But that's what you want to do, because if you stop now, you should be able to make the distance. Graham Rahal was just a great beneficiary of doing that last minute aboard when he dove out and didn't make a pit stop and waited for the caution. But he had quite a moment earlier on when he was rubbing tires there with Marco Andretti. Smoke, a wiggle, but he stayed with it. And considering Graham Rahal has had a couple of scary moments in the last few races, but boy, he's rebounded well now.
Mario Moraes is in for a pit stop in the KV Racing Technology machine, making a major front wing adjustment.
Out. Yeah, I was going to say, they're going the other way with that.
Yeah,
so he's a little too positive on the front of that car. He wants that front to lead a little bit more.
All target Chip Ganassi racing at the moment as Dixon has the lead over his teammate Franchitti. Jack?
All right, fellas, the way I see this now, if you look at Dixon, Franchitti, Rahal, and Patrick, I think it's going to be a choice. We feel like Dario Franchitti is likely going to pit around lap 255. The big key, we go back to that sweet spot with the tires. I think the way Scott Dixon is so good at making fuel, remember, he didn't have to pit for fuel when Franchitti almost ran out of ethanol there during that caution. I think Franchitti's going to pit before his teammate Dixon. I think Rahal is going to have to pit when Franchitti does. The real X factor in this one may be Danica Patrick. How far can Patrick and Dixon go? They paid a little better fuel mileage tonight. This could get wild and woolly with the last 25 laps.
And Jack, you talk about Patrick. I think we got to look for her to be in any time here. She's in about 109 laps. So let's be heads up on that for Danica.
Bracket on 7th place, a lap down. First and second separated by still just a matter of car lengths.
And what Jack was talking about, how do you make fuel? And Dixon absolutely is great at. And how do you make fuel? It's just being smooth on the throttle. Don't dump the throttle. How do you get behind traffic in front of you and just go easy on the throttle?
And Thomas Scheckter and Hideki Muto battling for the 11th spot. Scheckter gets it.
You know, we saw Hideki come in there. They didn't have any changes. They just put fuel on and tires. So he still likes his race car. He's going to keep pushing to challenge Scheckter, that's for sure.
And they've laid out for Danica Patrick.
And that is for position with these guys. Even though Muto was up there earlier, now these guys have cycled back where they are both on the same lap.
And Danica's on pit lane. Lindy?
And earlier when Danica came in, she got that full turn on the front wing and then said she thought it felt good. Well, just a couple laps ago, she said, wait a minute, I want a little bit more front wing. They're supposed to do a half turn on there right there, and there it is. And they got the tires and fuel, and she's off.
That was 8.2 seconds for Danica. Back to this battle for the 10th spot.
And with regards to that stop for Danica, she's good to go to the end of this race. There's not another stop there for her.
226 laps completed. We're on lap 227.
Now, for leaders, when we see these pit stops, and Jack was alluding to it before, which teammate, we know that Scott Dixon got an extra lap on the first sequence, but if Dario Franchitti can somehow masterfully get an extra lap, that's really his only shot at getting by Dixon.
And remember, he is behind Dixon, so he may be using Dixon just to poke a hole in that air where he's not having to use as much throttle. That's a little bit of a stretch, but that could be a scenario.
Third place, Graham Rahal, you saw off the back, onto pit road.
We'll be back with more coverage of the SunTrust Indy Challenge from Richmond International Raceway on Versus. Versus welcomes you back to Richmond International Raceway. We have completed 236 of 300 laps. E.J. Viso running in 13th position. He had a close call a moment a few laps ago.
Wow. And you get up, look at the car slide on those marbles. Envision if you just had a bag of marbles and you put them on a table and you ran your hand across it. That's just what that car's like when you get up there on that high side.
You think what he was going through his mind? No, I have to finish. I gotta finish this race. Come on, stay up the wall, please. It's also worth saying, you'll note that Graham Rahal is still running in third place. That was his teammate that tricked me there with the golden arches, of course, scoring that first this weekend. He did not pit. Still running strongly, right there at third spot.
And look at here, you got Wilson just coming out of pit lane. They're the leaders. Come on, boys. See what happens as they roll off a 4. I'm sure Justin will just kind of stay on the low side. Sure enough. Ew, still
close.
You know, and the reason it's so, you see how Franchitti cut that so tight on Wilson is he doesn't want to get his right side rubber up into where those marbles have started to create themselves.
Elio Castroneves relinquishes 4th place to make a pit stop. Robbie Floyd is there.
Well, they've been having front wing adjustments and tire pressure. They're going to do the same this time. Looks like set number 7 is going to make their way on. That means they have one brand new set to go. Eric Prentice on the outside right, or the outside right. Rick Reineman, they wave him on, and a good stop for Elio Castroneves.
And the National Guard car of Dan Weldon for Panther Racing is making a pit stop. 4 new Firehawks. Ethanol is in, and away goes Dan Weldon.
I love seeing those ethanol flames out the tailpipes. That is so cool at night.
Thomas Scheckter is in for a stop. He had moved up to 9th.
Push him out, boys.
These Honda engines idle at 3,000 RPM, so when they're sitting there in neutral, that's why you see that extra ethanol burning out the tailpipes. You also see it anytime someone lifts off the throttle. It's an indicator at night. You saw from Danica there. Anytime somebody gets off, you get a nice little blue flame.
Riding on board with Muto, we're looking back at Danica here, and this is for position. There are those flames. Look at that. That's just, we heard the double downshift. I think that was twice on that downshift, and you just see the back pressure there on the fuel just popping out at you.
Scott Dixon is now the driver who has led the most laps so far this evening. Ryan Briscoe's streak is over. It ended on lap number 26 when he crashed on the backstretch. And it's also going to mean a shuffle in the point standings because he was in the point standings when we went into this event. Ed Carpenter comes on pit road. He was running in 8th position.
While that's happening, you can see on the left-hand side of the picture that Justin Wilson on those new tires is now jumping all over the leaders.
And the leaders have done 105 laps, so I would say in the next 5 laps, we're probably going to be looking for both Dixon and Franchitti. And who's going to come in first? We think it's going to be Franchitti.
Saw E.J. Viso. Oh, we got a caution. Elio's in the fence. Wow, also on the backstretch.
Well, now the leaders, those who haven't pitted, are going to get another bonus.
Yep.
Today, staying out is the key to track position.
Well, and for our leaders, both Dixon, Franchitti, Rahal, those top 3 guys were real close to their pit window, so.
Elio climbs out of his car after an uncharacteristic.
Whoa,
Schechter's up there. And so.
Schechter. Wow. And Schechter didn't say, Elio, you don't want to be up here where I am. And Elio didn't get that message. But Schechter must have hit the brush.
Could have been something on the track or whatever.
I don't.
Wow.
Because both of them just shot up into the outside.
But you're right, because if you're Elio back there and you see Schechter on the wall, you tend to say, hey, I got to slow down a little bit. And he just went right up and across.
He got high. He's in trouble. He's like, come on, hang on to it. But then so Elio just kind of got sucked up into that. As Schechter just started high and stayed high and drove up there on the marbles. You see him sawing on that wheel?
Yep.
Great job.
So when the pits are open, you're going to have a yellow flag pit stop for the win, potentially.
Between Dixon, Franchitti, Rahal.
And guys, keep in mind, though, that you've got your in-lap and your out-lap. It's a 60-mile-an-hour speed limit, but have you ever tried to maintain exactly 60? When you're coming down to like tenths of a second, just getting in, we saw it in Texas. And as they start to come here, hey, precision is going to be the key.
And here they're coming.
Of course, there's a pit road speed limit that helps you. You have electronic aids keeping you at 60 miles an hour, but really the battle is going to be between the 9 and the 10.
And as we look at the right screen, that's Franchitti who's going to be the first one you look at right there. So watch him to the line. Dixon's rolling. Dixon's got Franchitti at the line as they go out. There's Rahal back in 3rd.
So Dixon beats out his teammate off pit lane, and that could be the story of the race.
That's the money stop right there. And you know, Dario still has got to be thinking, I'm still running second, and I made an extra pit stop just a little 1 lap earlier, but you still got to be happy with that. He gave, but to be still running second, that's still a miracle.
But he made that extra pit stop. That wasn't wrong. He had to do that. They had to come in and get that. So you can't kick yourself for it. That's just
well,
the way
you kick yourself saying, wish I hadn't burned that 10th of a gallon of fuel.
There you go. There you go.
Less than 50 laps to go in the SunTrust Indy Challenge under caution because of an incident involving Elio Castroneves. Target Team Ganassi running first and second with Dixon in the lead and Dario Franchitti second. However, Team Penske is not having a good day at all.
Ryan Briscoe said the car was pushing, but then it gripped at the front, unexpectedly sent him around just as the banking goes flat, Robbie.
Right there, just rolls off just a little bit. See him take his hands off the wheel? He says, I know I'm going to hit.
Elio Castroneves, not certain if it had anything to do with Thomas Schechter or for some reason when he saw him high, he got out of the throttle, but both cars very high, out of the groove. And man, since Michigan 2007,
it's been 2 years.
The last time 2 Penske cars haven't finished, and they tested here. And Target Chip Ganassi did not. Boy, they got to whip it this weekend.
They sure did.
That's some poking in the chest right there, isn't it?
Okay, here once again are the pit stops. Franchitti and Dixon. Franchitti up ahead.
There's Dixon looking over at the fueler. There's the fuel probe. He's plugged in, watching the fuel. He's out. That was a timed. He didn't need to take a fuel. He didn't.
There was no fuel. Typically, if you go for a full fill in that clear hose, we would have seen a little bit of ethanol, but that was a timed fuel stop because they didn't need all the fuel to get to the end. That was cool.
Yeah, only 50 laps left. He didn't need to take on 90 laps worth of fuel. Great pit strategy.
Yep. Mike Hull, looking over the situation, has to be pleased with the way things are going tonight for Target Chip Ganassi Racing. We should go back to green here before too much longer. 256 laps are in the book. There's first and second. Graham Rahal still running in third spot. Hideki Muto and Danica Patrick are completing the top 5, and those 5 cars are on the lead lap, with Tony Kanaan a lap down in 6th position.
And for Dario, who's chasing Dixon, you know, now he's just going to have to wait. See, we see the sweepers there in the back. They are trying to get some of those marbles off the high side, but it's really tough to get it clean. But for Franchitti, he's really going to have to figure out how much risk he wants to take to get by Dixon on the high side if they're just racing clean, unless they get to lap cars and he can try and set up some type of pick that takes away Dixon's momentum.
Paul Blevin in the starter stand tonight waves the green flag as some cars get the wave around. A Roger Penske-owned car has finished first or second in the last 13 races in a row, counting Will Power's second position at Long Beach.
That's quite a stat.
Yep.
Not tonight.
Not tonight. There you go with 1-2 finishes by teammates. Andretti Green Racing has had 13, Team Penske 10, and Target Chip Ganassi 4, looking for 1 more. Okay. The pace car driven by Johnny Rutherford will be pulling off here in the next few feet, leaving the field in the hands of Scott Dixon as we get set for the restart. IndyCar Series returns to Versus on Sunday, July 26th with the IndyCar Grand Prix of Edmonton. It's a 1.9-mile airport course in Edmonton. 5 of the next 6 races, in fact, are on road and street courses, so you can see us at Edmonton on Sunday, July the 26th at 5 o'clock Eastern Time. That's a great venue up there. Here we go. The green flag waves.
There you had Matos looking down the inside of Wilson just to, you know, again, you got to take advantage of the restarts if you're going to capitalize on something, and he did.
Also, Graham Rahal seems racy at the end of segments, but always seems to have a little bit of a trouble on starts and restarts. Certainly, he's comfortably in third spot, but if he wants to challenge for the lead, he's got to find a way to get up to speed quicker. He's right at the moment just happy to have a car that's nice and solid.
Exactly. Is he really yeah, I guess as a driver, you're always thinking you want to challenge for the lead. But if you look at his last 2 oval races, as you said, I'm just happy to be there in third place, and let's just kind of ride this out and see what these boys throw at each other up front here between Dixon and Franchitti.
And they went back to a setup for Graham Rahal they haven't used for a while. They said they lost their way somewhat. They want to give his confidence back. They stepped back to something that they know is working well.
So that last time by, Scott Dixon, the leader of the race, turned his fastest race lap, as well as Franchitti. So they came in for those new tires, and they're working. As we heard Jack say early, he had, you know, the special call out for those.
Well, his 2 strategies that he went back and forth on, you needed both.
You needed both.
You needed track position and you need new tires.
So I was right both times.
Yeah.
Right. You were. But they're happy on those new tires right now, just setting the fastest race laps all night on that second till go lap.
Now you know why we call them Dr. Feelgoods.
That's Dr. Feelgoods.
Schechter, Viso, and Carpenter all on the same lap and all vying for position. 11th spot, 11th, 12th, and 13th. On board with Thomas.
There's his, watch his right hand and left hand, and you see the back when you have the paddle shift on the back side of these. Look, and you just see his fingers real quick, every once in a while, just up and down through the gears, probably grabbing 2 gears on both ends.
you're at the end of the line, if you're an Ed Carpenter and end of the line, the air is so dirty. That's a tough job when you're at the back of the line of cars like this, just to hang on.
But you don't have to worry about anybody passing you from behind.
That's true. We'll take another break so we can show you the closing laps of this race. Scott Dixon leads by 1 second over Dario. The lead was more than a second. Now it's down to a matter of car lengths. Scott Dixon has caught some slower traffic up ahead. Ed Carpenter, E.J. Viso, Thomas Schechter, and others. And Dario Franchitti is right under his rear wing.
And what's important now is both Dixon and Franchitti, they got to look up ahead to see where they can make the move. Where does Franchitti think Dixon's going to get hung up? And who's a big help to these guys right now is their spotters up top saying, hey, this guy's slow here. He's better there. This is how you want to set that up. They can maybe just help with some strengths and weaknesses as these leaders right here are going to try and work their way through the pack. But look, it's already, they've been on the back of Carpenter for 2 laps right now, and they're still there. They've slowed up 1 second. They were running 17-second flat laps. Now they've gotten behind Carpenter, and they're running 18-second laps. 1 second slower, and they still can't do anything about getting by him.
Yeah, we were riding on board, and we saw very little of that ethanol blue flame out the back. And the moment now he gets behind, look at that. All kinds of lifting and flames out the back, because what are you going to do? You've got all that disturbed air ahead of you, and just a huge difference from running on your own or behind someone in dirty air.
Yeah, one guy that's pretty happy about this scenario, Dixon and Franchitti had pulled about a 3-second gap back to Graham Rahal.
Yeah, Graham's
and now Graham's shrunk that down to almost a second.
Yep. At some point, Scott Dixon is going to have to take a risk, because I don't think you can just let Dario hang there. I think you've got to, at some point, make a move.
And it's going to be aggressive. It's got to be.
1.1 second difference now between second and third as we're on board with TK.
And 2 gears for Tony Kanaan. He's pushing hard.
He's 6th, the lap down.
Well, guys, earlier, I talked to Emma Dixon about, supposed to have the baby in 3 weeks, and how's it feeling? Well, I talked to Mel Hall, Mike Hall's wife, and she said that Emma told her right after we had that discussion that she actually had a contraction. So who knows if Scott Dixon wins this thing or Dario gets up in his tailbox, we might have a baby here in the infield care center soon.
The effect he has on women.
Thank you, Robbie.
Laps clicking down, just 15 to go.
Yeah, Dixon's going to have to, he's going to have to do something.
Well, now I'm second guessing, because if Dario stays where he is, I think he's just going to be looking in the mirrors, and his spotter's going to be telling him how close Dario is. If Dario, as his teammate, doesn't try to go after him, he might just ride around right here. I mean, I wouldn't feel too comfortable doing that, but you got to do what you got to do.
But that's making sense what we're seeing, because we don't see any sizing up, where somebody's getting a run and just looking at the inside or looking at the outside. There's no sizing being done with Dixon on Carpenter, Franchitti on to Dixon. They're just driving and doing laps, and there's not many left.
Now, it's worth
12
saying
laps left.
That the series has seen the fact that there's been some races where it's extremely difficult for passing to take place, and in some upcoming races they're going to throw some new regulations out, some new aerodynamics. They're talking about push to pass. They recognize that they need to give these drivers more opportunities to pass. It'll happen before the end of the year, so they're hoping before the year's out they'll restore some more ease of passing. It's always tough on a 3/4 mile oval, but they're going to try and make the guy's job easier as the season goes on.
And historically, it's always been tough to pass. You can always catch somebody, but passing them's another story.
And hopefully those changes will be made as we go to Kentucky and Chicagoland. 10 laps to go.
Real quickly, let me update you on Elio Castroneves. He has left because he wanted to get out of here quickly. Here's what he told me it unfolded, and you're absolutely right. It was he seeing Schechter, but actually the National Guard car was involved as well. He said when the 4 car checked up, he went to the high side, and then lo and behold, there was Schechter, and it was in the wall.
It all happens fast around this place. Thanks,
like
Jack.
7 7.5 laps to go. Dixon with just a couple of car lengths advantage on Dario.
He's not sizing him up right now.
No. And Graham has not cut into the interval between second and third. Lindy?
Graham is struggling with a little bit of vibration in his car right now, but they are really cheerleading Graham in his ear at this second. They are saying, Graham, you have just got to survive this.
Graham only has 3 top 10 finishes on ovals in his career. His best was 4th 3 races ago at Milwaukee, so he's on pace for a career best finish of 3rd.
When you start here in single digits, 6 to go, 5 to go, all of a sudden, no matter how sore you are, you're like, I can do it. I can do it. I'm going to keep this thing on the track.
And he can do it because he's not being pressured by position from behind. We saw Kanaan there chasing him down. But remember, Kanaan's 1 lap down to Graham. So it gives you a little bit of ease when you're Graham's position. They're saying, come on, stay with it.
Tony Kanaan is right behind Graham Rahal on the racetrack, but Kanaan is a lap down in 6th spot. Here we go. They come down and they will complete 297. 3 to go.
I just don't think Dario can get close enough to the back of Dixon just aerodynamically. I think he gets closer. If he got any closer, he just wouldn't have any downforce on the front of his car. So he's got to maintain that 2 or 3 car length gap right now. If he did get close and it took that air off the front, it would wash him up the racetrack. He'd get into those marbles and he'd be up there dancing. Or even hitting the wall.
White flag is waving for Scott Dixon. Less than 3/4 of a mile to go.
Ganassi domination. That's what we've seen here at Richmond.
Off the 4th corner. Here's the checkered flag. Scott Dixon wins.
Way to go, Scott. Great job tonight, man. You won it for us. Well done.
He wins his 3rd race of the season, his 2nd win here at Richmond International. His 19th career win, and that ties him with Sam Hornish Jr. as the all-time winner in the IndyCar Series. Graham Rahal with a strong 3rd, and Hideki Muto and Danica Patrick have 4th and 5th place finishes tonight. Down to Robbie.
Well, Emma, as the fireworks go off, your husband moves up a spot. He's 2nd at points, only 2 behind Dario. What a going away president, wasn't it?
No, it was perfect. I'm so happy. It was just what I wanted to see. I'm sad it's my last race, but I'm so happy he won. I couldn't go on.
You're around him the most, but first I want to ask about those contractions. I heard Mel told me you had a contraction after we talked. Was that true?
You know, it's so weird. I did. I think I stressed myself out when they're coming to the pits because, like, it's stressful. It's so close. We know the number 10 boys are as good as the number 9 boys. So I was like, ah! But I'm just so happy.
I believe it's 5 top 6s in a row now. Congratulations after his year started off so bad. Those first 2 road races now coming on strong, the ovals, but it's back to the road races.
I know. He's really excited. It's so funny, though. When Scott knows he's going to have a good day, he always says in the morning, like, and he said that today. He said, I know I'm going to have a good day today, so.
Dixon clan doing well, all 3 of them.
And always a great display of fireworks here at Richmond as Scott is in victory lane, and we'll be back to talk with him in just a moment on Versus.
Scott Dixon makes it to victory lane, and Izod salutes the winning performance by the target Chip Ganassi driver. Scott getting a cold beverage. First of all, let's talk about from your perspective what you thought the difference maker was for you to get to victory lane.
Today it was about patience, man. It was really tough to pass. You know, there's lots of marbles. Really, you got offline, you were just going to chase the car all the way up. And I'm going to hand it to Dario, man. He was making it exciting on those first few stints. Going underneath some of those cars, it was pretty erratic, but definitely looked good. But we saved more fuel than him. he got caught out with that yellow, and that's when we sort of jumped him.
Yeah, and it looked like on that final pit stop, because you were able to save a little bit more fuel, you were able to engage in a time stop. Did they tell you that's what they were going to do?
I just figured that's what was going to happen. You know, I'd been asking them throughout the whole run, you know, how we were doing on MPG, but, you know, I got to thank the Target team. You know, the guys did a fantastic job. The pit stops were, you know, awesome, and we were 1-2 here. It was a huge points day for us. Both Penske cars didn't finish, so this is really good for the championship, and just real happy for the guys.
I know you want to get your wife Emma in here too, because this is a going away present for Emma. I understand she's got to go back to Indianapolis and get ready.
I think it's going to be her last race. We got a little baby on the way, so you know, I just can't wait for that. But oh, what a day! There we go.
Well done.
Emma, do you want to explain to him on that last pit stop that you had a couple of contractions?
Oh my God, baby, you have no idea. I was so freaking out because I know the number 10 boy is just equally as quick as the number 9, so I hung back and then I felt a little twinge. But I'm still holding in there.
So keep in mind that maybe if you make pit stops like that, you're going to have to go not only make the pit stop, but go breathe.
See, I think that's why she needs to stay home. I don't want to be having a baby at the track. You know, it'd probably be better off back home. But you know, I love the support from my family. It's you know, it's huge. But big day for the team, man.
We'll visit with you for the final word a little bit later. Robbie Floyd.
Dario Franchitti, now the new points leader of the IndyCar Series. That has to feel good, but you're not happy about how the race went.
No, I mean, to have a 1-2 for Team Target was great. But to lose it with the timing of a yellow, basically, we had to come in running out of fuel, and it was such a track position race tonight. No one could pass. You know, Scott and I were out there racing hard until we got to traffic, and then we had to run a second slower and just as slow as the car in front. I really apologize to the fans because that was a dreadful race tonight. We were in the cars and the teams. We're doing our best. We're trying as hard as we can out there, but we got to do something, put better racing on. But yeah, the points lead is definitely a bright spot. And a lot of people had worse days than we did. But so, as I say, 1-2 for Team Target, pretty cool. Looking forward to Watkins Glen next week.
Yeah, looking ahead, you're done with the ovals for a little while. 5 out of the 6 races are the road courses. You had some pretty good results at the start of the year on the roads, on the street courses.
Yeah, we did pretty good on the short ovals too. We've had a pretty good season so far, but looking forward to going back to Watkins Glen. Looking forward to trying to find out what Dixon's secrets are there, because he's been pretty good there so far. So now that I'm his teammate, hopefully I'll get some of his secrets.
Congratulations. Second wasn't first, but you're first in the IndyCar Series. Good job.
Thank you.
Lindy Thaxton.
Graham Rahal's best finish this season. Talk about how fuel-saving strategy worked for you today.
Yeah, I mean, you know, my engineers told me basically we need to save as much as possible, and it's always hard as a driver. You know, you want to push as hard as you can, but we're lucky today. I mean, the brakes came our way. The McDonald's boys worked extremely hard because when we started off this weekend, the car wasn't where we needed to be. But Martin, my engineer, and I worked extremely hard with all the guys and made a lot of changes, more changes this weekend than I can remember in recent history. So it feels great for us to have this result.
What happened in that close call with Marco?
Well, I mean, we touched. I had some understeer at the time, and he and Tony both went around the outside. Tony did, and then the lap later, Marco did. And I just couldn't hold it down. I was trying, and I just touched him. And we're fortunate nothing happened.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Graham Rahal's best finish, and also the best finish by his teammate, Robert Dornbos.
And there you have first, second, and third. Dixon the winner, Franchitti second, Rahal third. And we have more time, so we have more drivers to talk to. And we'll do that in just a moment when we come back to the SunTrust Indy Challenge, won by Scott Dixon on Versus.
Getting a little bit debrief there. The two of you, what did you tell Michael about your ride tonight?
Well, I was just telling him that the car was pretty good the last 2 stints, and he was telling me how close it was to Hideki and I being first and second because we had caught all the way back up to the leaders, and they were going to pit, so we would have been ahead of them. At least this is what I'm hearing anyway. So, you know, just like Indy and everything, it's always so disappointing to come, you know, and talk to people after the race and figure out what could have been. But, you know, at least it could have been. I don't think that we expected that at the beginning of the weekend.
DP, are you aware of those scenarios when you're in the cockpit of the race car?
I can sort of, you know, grasp situations. I mean, I can see the leaderboard when I'm out there, especially under yellow, and I can kind of see, like, when I'm going to be pitting. But you don't really know what's going on exactly because you can't see the whole track, so, and you don't know exactly when people pit. So, like I said, it's always very interesting to hear what could have been.
All right, woulda, coulda, shoulda. Let's check in with your teammate.
Hideki Muto, what a race from you. You led your first laps in IndyCar Series, 74 laps. How does it feel to finally be out in front and show everybody what you've got?
Well, I'm really proud of that. We struggled yesterday practice,
but we changed so much, and guys did fantastic job for adjustment of car, and also strategy was very good, and again guys did a fantastic pit stop, so that was a great day.
Many close moments as we're watching you race out there. Very many close moments for you out there, spooky moments on the track?
Yeah, many times, yeah, I can't remember now, but yeah, because if you go up high, you get marbles, and sometimes, yeah, you get loose moment, but this is still race, so car was good, really up high there, and I feel good.
I believe it's 5 out of the last 6 races you finished in the top 10, but back-to-back top 5s. What's changed? A lot of people are talking about you're trying to show what you have because they don't know if you're going to be back on this team next year. Does that give you a little bit more impetus?
No, I don't care. I just need to do my best as I can, and I believe my team. And I mean, I had so many bad lucks today. This year, and now I think luck has been changed. So hopefully, another good finish next week.
And I'm sure looking forward to Watkins Glen. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Hideki Muto with a great run here at Richmond International. Our Firestone pit performers. It was kind of close between Danica Patrick and Hideki Muto. Dixon was 3rd in that category, but Patrick walks off with the Firestone Pit Performer Award. Well, we had to do a little rearranging with our camera operators before we started this race tonight because one of our great camera people and dear friend Ray Winsell was home with his beautiful wife, Chris. Unfortunately, just before we went on the air tonight, we were given word that Chris passed away. Ray, God bless you, and our thoughts and prayers are with you. We can't be with you personally, but we certainly are thinking about you and your terrific loss. Still some celebrating going on in Victory Lane as Scott Dixon has taken the Target Chip Ganassi car to the Victory Lane podium tonight. With him, Dario Franchitti 2nd, and Graham Rahal finishes in 3rd position. Down to Lindy.
And Thomas Scheckter, let's talk a little bit about what happened with Elio and Dan Weldon out there. What could you see? They were behind you, right? What do you know of what happened?
Firstly, I've got to thank Monavi and the Monavi crew for giving me a good car today. I mean, it was consistent, but just stuck in traffic most of today. So what happened for me, I was ahead, and we had a great stop, and we got ahead of Dan, and I went into turn 1 a little too quick, and man, just got into those marbles, went straight, and someone must have been looking over my shoulder to not make that car hit into the wall. But then I looked behind, and there was a yellow, which was good because I could really clean my tires off. But you know, great solid run for the Monavi car, and just looking forward to improve on this.
And you really thought this was going to be a really physically demanding race, but you say you feel all right.
Yeah, it's got to be this Monavi energy. It must be, because to be honest, I feel great now, and you know, I thought I'd be pretty dead afterwards, but you know, the guy's done a good job on the car, and I feel pretty good to go for a run now.
Thomas Scheckter, thank you.
Thank you.
Robbie?
Rafael Matos, the U.S. Marines car. How did it feel out there for you tonight? You finished in 8th. That's your 3rd top 10 of the season. Yeah,
car felt pretty good. I believe we had definitely a top 5, maybe a top 3 car tonight, but the way the yellows play out for us, it just didn't play out the way we would like. But very happy with the Marines. Luxor Dragon crew, the crew did an amazing job, and you know, just a little bit frustrated the way that the people didn't respect the blue flag the way I expected. And let's go to the road course and let's try to get some more points and try to win some races.
Anybody in particular? The blue flag means watch out, the leaders are coming through, and they're not acknowledging that. Anybody in particular, or is it pretty much everyone?
You know, I don't want to name anybody here, but you know,
you don't have to.
That doesn't really matter. It's just.
I know you're disappointed with that, but think on the positive side. Rookie of the year, you had a 1-point advantage. Now it's up to 3. You also move up 2 spots from 13th to 11th overall. Put the smile on your face. You're going to a road course.
Yes, I'm very happy. We're going to road course. You know, leading the rookie standings. There's some great things happening with us, and the whole team it's just working really well right now. Just it was important for us to finish this race, and top 10 is certainly a pretty good result for us, and let's try to carry the momentum into Watkins.
Good job, Rafa. Lindy Thaxton?
Well, EJ, this must feel good. Your first finish this season.
It's been a really difficult season for us, but well, this is the race that brought back our first finish, and we're just happy. We're happy because we finished. We had a great car, very fast car. We're just doing the same lap times as the leaders. We were saving a lot of fuel. Just the race didn't go the way we wanted regarding yellows. One of them came in the wrong time for us, and we just went a couple of laps down. But well, this is racing once more, and I need to thank all the people, my team that went through with me through all these difficult races. And this is just the start of our championship for us, and just some great races coming on. And we're very confident. We improved the car a lot. We worked very hard and strong as a team, and I need to thank everyone around me. Thank you.
And it looked like you had a close call in turn 2 at one point that you were going to brush the wall there. When you're out there, you know, and stuff like this is happening, mentally, is it weighing on you what your year has been like?
Well, that thing I need to really say that was unnecessary from Danica. She was very fast. She was just with fresh tires, and she just overtook me really late in the corner, and she just put me a little bit wide. It was unnecessary. I was very lucky to catch that one. Well, frustration is always around in racing, and it depends how you handle it. And I've been strong mentally and just training hard, being focused and working together with the team.
Yeah, what were you all doing behind the scenes to mentally get through this?
Can you repeat that one?
What were you all doing behind the scenes as a group to mentally be able to get through this? Because it's been tough.
Well, we lost guys on the team that they didn't support this pressure, and but some others stay with us, some others work harder, some others came into the team and brought information that it's been very useful, and that's why I love this team, and I have a lot of faith in them. They have faith in me, and this is the key in racing. It's just about working harder, and that's what we've been doing. We test here, and we were as fast as the Penske's, and we were as fast as them in the race as well. Just the situation didn't help us, but well, nothing else I can say. Just thank them and thank my sponsors, my family, and my friends.
EJ Vizo with a 12th place finish.
And Scott Dixon in victory lane now finds himself in second position of the point standings, but just one behind his teammate. This is the 6th consecutive race where the interval between first and second in points has been 5 or less. That's the most consecutive races with that small a margin in IndyCar Series history. Well, we're finished with the ovals for a while. The next time we will be on with an IndyCar Series event will be in Edmonton, Alberta. The second time that the IndyCar Series has competed there. It's an airport course. Join us for that event on Sunday, July the 26th. Take a look at the final results for the race here tonight, the SunTrust Indy Challenge. There were a total of 5 cars on the lead lap at the end of the race. Rahaal's best career finish on an oval, Muto's 3rd finish or a 4th or better on the short tracks, Danica's 5th top 5 this season, and Robert Dornbos equals his best career finish in the IndyCar Series. In the second half of the field, well, that's where you find some surprises. Helio Castroneves 17th and Ryan Briscoe 19th. It was not a good night for Team Penske. And now our salute to the crew that took Scott Dixon to victory lane here this evening. We want to give as much credit as we can to the guys who change the tires, puts the fuel in, and gets the car back on the racetrack as quickly as they can. Nice going, guys. Here's Jackaroo.
Well, and you talk about that crew and the way they perform. Take a look at the sequence in terms of the last word. They were the difference maker tonight for Scott Dixon over his teammate Dario Franchitti. It came down to that final stop, and we're joined by the crew chief, Ricky Davis, and along with Mike Hull, the strategist for Scott Dixon. We already talked to you, so we're going to talk to you in a couple of seconds. But Ricky, first I want to know, when were you guys aware of the fact that that last stop was going to be a time stop?
Well, we were hoping to be able to get to a certain lap to where we could go full rich on fuel, and as it finally played out for us and went our way, we knew exactly how much fuel we needed and be able to run full rich and get to the end. So it played out perfect for us. We really didn't know how much fuel to put in until the yellow came out and they did a quick math and figured it out.
And Mike, you have always talked about the incredible ability your driver has to make fuel right from the beginning. you were making fuel tonight.
Yeah, we were making fuel. You know, in a way, it was an advantage to run second to Dario in that first segment because we could do that, and so we were able to go longer, and that put us out front, and that was the difference in the race right there. So it was what Scott did behind Dario in that first segment. You know, when we came in, we had a tenth of a gallon of fuel left in the car, so it was perfect for us. It was close, but it was good.
Scott, I think you better buy these guys a steak along with the rest of the crew. Congratulations.
Get the steak, a few beers maybe.
Guys.
And that's the story of the SunTrust Indy Challenge. Coming up next, PBR Albuquerque. IndyCar racing returns to Versus on July 26 with the Indy Grand Prix of Edmonton. You can find IZOD at your local Macy's. For more information on IndyCar, log on to IndyCarVersus.com. Congratulations to Scott Dixon, winner here tonight at Richmond. For Jan Beekes, Robbie Buell, Jack Arute, Robbie Floyd, and Lindy Thaxton, I'm Bob Jenkins. See you in Edmonton.